Hello and welcome to Can We Play Already, the Twitch channel where I have actually administered a toxin to two of my friends, and I promised them I would give them the antidote only if they stick around and listen to me speak for at least 2 hours. I am Patrick. I will be your guide today. Usually you see me here in this seat being a dungeon master. And we're going to be basically talking about how I run my games and specifically how I've been running the campaign we've been playing here on our channel set in RAVNICA, the City of Guilds. So with me, we have...
I'm Justin, and I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark.
Wow. Topical.
It's because of the toxins.
It's because of the toxins. Yeah, it's a disintegrating poison.
Yeah.
Synthesized in a very sophisticated lab.
Much slower, I think.
Yeah.
Than the dusting.
Definitely. So you're welcome.
Thanks.
And of course we have...
Hi, my name is Ben, and I'm usually producing the show behind the scenes, but today I'm producing the show in front of the scenes so that we can talk to Patrick and find out all his hot DM tips for RAVNICA.
Finally, you get to see Ben's beautiful face, and I hope you're not disappointed. I know I was the first time I met him. He had a blank profile on Grindr. I'm kidding.
Wow.
Untrue. So welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us. Now, I haven't done this because we didn't do it for the session before this one either. So I figured that...
Right. Yeah, we have the last two episodes, technically, we didn't talk about in this format yet. But we did do several other episodes in the past where we went and did this style chat show, and then you can go check those out on our YouTube.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe.
Also subscribe here on Twitch if you like listening to us live, because it's exciting and you never know what's going to happen. Ooh. I don't know what accent that was. Because we missed the episode before the last one, I figured we kind of start with that. They did stretch out quite a bit, but I feel like a lot of what happened can be summarized pretty easily. Mm-hmm. So, Justin, what do you remember, not from the last episode, but the one before that? You guys had just defeated the vampire, the mind drinker vampire, part of Demir. And then you'd also found out that your best friend, Liam...
Yes.
Oh, I guess I should mention, for those of you who don't know, Justin is actually one of our players in our campaign in RAVNICA. Who do you play?
I play Milos, the beautiful centaur, and Druid, who is a unicorn.
And you're part of which guild?
I am from Selesnya.
Yeah.
I carry the light of Matt Selesnya inside me wherever I go.
Just like real life, honestly. Yeah. You're just a little ball of sunshine.
With also 6 legs. How many do centaurs have?
4?
4.
They have 6 appendages.
Limbs, is it 7?
Have you never seen a horse? Justin. Do you not know what a centaur is?
They're the ones with spots, right?
I thought it was a brown cow. Brown cow's stunning.
I remember pretty much just, it was a big old role play episode of a lot of, what the hell, Liam, what happened? And everyone just dragging him through the mud. And I think us just leaving him tied up for a long time and arguing about what to do with him forever.
Yeah, it was a lot of that. So basically, when after you guys had defeated the mind drinker vampire and everything kind of came out in the open of what Liam was doing or where maybe some of his allegiances lie, I didn't really know where you guys were going to go with it. So for that portion, I kind of had to do quite a bit of improv. I didn't prepare that much for the past 2 episodes. Did that come across? I don't know. No?
Not really.
It's shit either way.
You never know. Yeah.
I find that funny because preparing an encounter is kind of one thing you can do as a DM to sort of prepare. But when you don't really know where your players are going to go, you kind of have to just have something sort of random maybe ready. A lot of the encounters that happened in episode 5, I guess, were based on just the role-playing scenarios and what came out of it. Martin, who plays Karen, who's a Boros-like Minotaur, likes to punch people, couldn't help himself but roleplay, even though Martin, the player, knew he shouldn't, in character, and that was part of the fun was, he just got to bop someone, and what do you know? They started combat with Liam's mentor, who is like, obviously strong shapeshifter, who's kind of like pulling the strings on him, and yet, they all came together, and it's part of the action economy, I think, with 5th edition, that just more characters getting to go. Even if you have a tough boss, if they're alone, it's tough. But they cornered this Demir character, so and that was just pure roleplay for an encounter and a fight.
Yeah,
that maybe you weren't necessarily prepared for.
I did not see that coming, honestly. I thought it was a possibility, so I had the book ready, the monster manual, because the shapeshifter is just a doppelganger in the monster manual for D&D 5th edition. So I just had that page open, and I was like, just in case. So that's the one thing I could prepare, is any potential encounters based on roleplay. Most of those I could kind of know in advance, or at least I know where the stat blocks are, and I kind of knew relatively how they would do in the encounter. But for that one, I kind of thought that they would take the ultimatum that Zizix was giving them.
Yeah.
So what was your perspective? What did Milos think at that time?
Milos kept wanting to take these ultimatums and not fight because he does not like to fight. I can't remember if that's one of my character traits or not, but he definitely doesn't like fighting.
You're a pacifist.
Yeah. So that was really, and that just keeps happening. It's like, oh, look, they're giving us an out, and this is obviously a strong enemy. Let's just take it. Like, who needs our memories? Whatever.
And it makes sense. It makes sense both gameplay wise, but also more importantly, it makes sense for your character. Just like Ben was saying, for Karen, for Martin's character, who's, a little bit more prone to violence, maybe. He does that. That's how he solves problems. Barbaric. I know that red white guild.
Yeah.
Can't trust them.
He's like Minotaur Matthew McConaughey.
Oh my God.
I can see it. Yeah.
I mean, the way he talks, kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely has like that Matthew McConaughey gruff voice.
Yeah.
That's also kind of mildly unsettling.
Yes.
Is that just me? Does anyone else think that?
I'm into it.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
But anyways, you guys did defeat Zizix. The reason that she was there, just kind of to give you some perspective, I don't know if you've wondered, like, how the fuck did she know we were here or whatever? But essentially, she didn't know where Liam had gone off to. She was busy doing her own thing for a bit. And then when she couldn't find him, she thought, oh, fuck, like, did he actually go, like, or let me check up on him and see kind of how he's been doing or what he's been up to, and finds you guys sleeping in the safe house and just being like, well, fuck. Like, so, so she decided to kind of like play a trick on everyone and kind of try and manipulate you guys.
She did.
Yeah.
That's right. You started by kind of luring them down by calling for help, and she's transformed into a little goblin in a cage in like this like sub basement. I assume the sub basement altogether just came out of necessity. Just like,
absolutely.
Here we go.
Yeah,
and that's DM tip of the day. Just make shit up.
Add extra rooms.
Add extra
Add
rooms.
A secret door.
It especially worked for this one because I know you guys, when you first were looking through the place, the only place you were kind of looking was kind of on the ground to see if anything was there in the cage with the straw and the blood.
Yeah.
But you didn't really look at the walls or anything, so I thought, okay, well, that's perfect. I can just say there's a secret compartment in the next episode.
And that's the nice thing about having an episode to plan in between too, is you just think, what in this room did they not explore yet that I can throw something either to help them or to set them off in a new direction, because this group needs a little bit of nudging along sometimes, and
that will happen with most groups at some point. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think this was a big one because it was after you defeated Zizix even, it was still kind of like, well, what the fuck did we do with Liam?
Yeah.
Right? So of course, because Liam was your best friend, what were you what was Milos going through?
Well, I mean, Milos was of course totally dedicated to explaining it away for him. It was, he's just pretending to be Demir for, the trick on the vampire. He's just playing ahead for this. Very clever. just as my best buddy is. You know?
I love Milosh's like naivete, like commitment to naivete, like and commitment to like just seeing the best in his best friend.
Yeah.
Can't possibly be anything else, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and it was very funny to watch, but and all I could think was like, wow, what a great friend, what a great enabler for this
Right?
for this friend's bad
And he
habit.
could have got away with it, but then he decided to shatter my world by saying he's been lying to me all this time.
Yeah,
And that he was not as devoted to Matt Selesnya as I had presumed.
and that's what got you. It's like your religious devotion kind of trumped. Yeah,
I was kind of having flashbacks to like early high school when I was like a bit more closed-minded, and my boyfriend told me he was bisexual at the time, and I was like crying like, we can't be bisexual, you can't like both, what?
Is this, are
It
you
was
kid-
kind
are
of
you
like that.
serious?
That was my inspiration for Milos dealing with like, I'm following two guilds.
I didn't know
Like-
that we were going to get such insight into your trauma.
Yeah, talk shows are for, you get surprises.
You're not biphobic.
Oh
anymore.
hell no! Yeah, I'm
Okay,
like,
good.
oh my god, my
Clearly
food's
not.
like-
Martin
Yeah, yeah.
is bisexual
Yeah,
in real life.
Yeah,
so.
I got over that. I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's fine. But you know, high school, you do a lot of
You're-
dumb things in high school.
I'm from a small town in
Yeah.
New Brunswick. Like, absolutely, I had problematic thoughts and behavior.
Right.
Like, absolutely.
I've grown so much now that I'm in second year undergrad.
Write a comment, either here in the Twitch chat or if you're watching it on YouTube. Write us a comment and let us know how old you think Justin is, because I guarantee you, just with this one hint, it's not what he just said.
My 22nd birthday is on Saturday.
Oh my god. But no, you look great. Yes, but so after you guys were killing Zizix and you had this shattering revelation, you guys were kind of arguing both with like each other and then also with Liam, trying to figure out what to do with him. And that took a really long time. And I understand why partly why, because again, it's such kind of a big thing, especially for your characters, you know? But there was definitely a point where I had to be like, okay, guys, like we have to come to a decision because we're just stuck. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
As an observer, I was kind of like, we were at the point where the campaign could have gone any which direction. And there's a certain mentality, I think, with D&D where, you know, you want to keep the party together and everyone at the table is having fun wanting to keep playing together. But sometimes you just have to make those good, tough character choices and maybe decide that you want to go in different directions or do different things. And
Yeah.
RAVNICA is a big enough world that I think we have room to explore some of that and might even have more in the world and other people coming in. But in that moment, you know, as a DM, like you're kind of just stuck wanting them to do something.
yeah.
And then how did you push them along to, you kind of like threw out another kind of prod, you know, make them go somewhere else to kind of change the scenery and maybe get a little bit further along?
Well, for that one in particular, I didn't nudge them in this. There's another example I'll get to later how I nudged you. But in that particular example with Liam, I didn't want to put in like another encounter or something like that in the time. I really wanted you guys to like resolve this, because any other encounter I feel like would have just kind of stalled it. So I was kind of just had to be like upfront and like as the DM tell you guys like, okay, we need to make a decision.
Yeah.
And if you can avoid that, definitely do like try and instead come up with a way how the story kind of helps bring them forward. But in that particular case, I was like, I can't really think of anything right now. So Patrick the human is just going to interject. And yeah, but you're right that interjecting with like narrative is always better for sure.
Yeah, but that's still a great, you know, tip. Like even sometimes you still just have to say, guys, like let's do something. And
Exactly.
it was a little extra kind of drawn out because I think they were trying to figure out who they were as characters and role play, which is great, but also figure out as characters, what do I really have in this world? What are my stakes in this world? And like, what do I care about?
Yeah.
And so, and the inter-character dynamic, they kind of got hung up on it a little bit. I will say, where they were just going in circles, and
it was a lot of repeating yourself. You weren't doing much, like you. No. At some point you were very like, you were willing to forgive, like, or potentially forgive him or something.
I tried to just untie him. They wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, guys. Like, I was trying to move it along, like Justin the person was. I was like, let's just let me untie him, and then we'll just go.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And I think, just like Ben said, you want to kind of role play for your character and try and think, what would my character do? And like, you guys are all very strong role players, and you very much think like how your character would think. But there are some points where I think you do have to think like, this is a game, and for ease of play, how can I at least move something forward? Like, potentially compromising for something, even though maybe your character wouldn't usually, but for this particular instance, and you can come up with a way to justify it for your character. There's always a way to justify like doing something. So that's why I was just kind of like, you guys need to do this. And then eventually, thankfully, you did.
Yes.
I think from a DM's perspective and like, an audience perspective, there might have been some concern for Jace the player too, because, his character was, kind of betraying the party, and the other characters were upset for that reason, or they're not willing to trust him as a character, and which created tension in the party dynamic. But also, there's always a worry that the interpersonal, like when you come into a conflict, inter-party conflict as characters, whether that's going to translate into players having conflict too.
Absolutely.
So luckily, I think everyone was
a good sport
and enjoying it. Like, Jace, acknowledges, as a character, yes, I understand your point. And, even having those moments out of character to acknowledge your players' choices in the moment can be very helpful to make sure that, everyone's still having fun and enjoying the drama and not being a little too overwhelmed.
Exactly. Like just having, maybe instead of Liam, Jace saying to the players like, oh, that was rough, but like that was a good play or something like that. Just, some encouragement. I sometimes try and say that, like, when I give inspiration, I'm like, oh, that was a really good role play moment, or it was a really good way to show, even though what you did was maybe shitty, like, or what your character did was shitty, for the purposes of the game, it was great. Yeah. But eventually you guys did come to basically like a sort of compromise. I
think we compromised. Were we going to take him to the Boros? Was the thing that we came down to?
It's that you were going to go speak with Karen's mentor. Yeah.
And they did.
And Karen's mentor, and that was how I could direct them, right? So now they're interacting with an NPC, a non-player character.
A wise one at that.
A wise one. So a guy who is, he kind of understands their perspective, or is good at understanding perspective based on what they told him. And that's a really good way for you as a DM to like nudge them in a direction. So I nudged them in the direction of Nassius, because he's the reason you guys were, doing all of this in the first place. It's the reason that most of you met each other, except for you and Liam, because you know each other. But, you guys still hadn't kind of touched base with him. And, you still hadn't told him that you let Faelish get away. So that's why, like, I had, Karen's mentor kind of push you in that direction.
Right.
Do you ever feel that like sometimes the DM is like forcing you in a direction, or what do you think? Like as a player?
No, it never feels like forced, but it feels pointed towards maybe. Like, I guess that's the point, is you get quests and they say, go this way.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, well, why not go that way?
Yeah.
Or you think, let's do a different thing. But I mean, usually we don't. So it just works out that way.
And it's fine, like doing a different thing. And, you guys did do that, right? Because when you got Faelish's journal. When she gave you the journal, it talked about this weird place in the Undercity and this Orzhov tomb where she was going to meet this vampire. And for me, that was like, I consider that kind of like a side quest sort of thing, or like something you would do after. But you guys decided to do that first, which is totally fine. But at some point, it was like, I need to get you back into the
actual story.
Into the actual story.
So that as part of your narrative arc, even just kind of like this whole set of the adventure was kind of directed around this quest for Nasius trying to find Faelish. And they managed to stretch it out into 6 episodes because of a lot of this deep, immersive, fun role playing, but also kind of just a little bit of extra narrative, we might say.
Yeah, and I think it ended up making the story better.
They found some cool stuff, especially meeting Karen's mentor was driven out of this need for this wise counsel, and he ended up being a really interesting character for them as an NPC that you could kind of, the guilds give you guidance on like creating relationships and NPCs with contacts. So that's a great prompt but also sets up the DM to be able to have these people to fall back on too. So maybe talk about how you thought up this character in the moment and how you were able to leverage him too.
Well, so the great thing was I didn't think of this character. It was Martin that came up with this character, right? Because when you're in player creation in using the Guildmaster's Guide, when you're making your character and you're choosing your guild, they ask you to choose 3 contacts. And 2 of them are within your guild. One of them is usually like kind of like a friend or a mentor or something like that. And the other one is usually kind of more like a rival. And then another contact that's outside the guild. So we had seen this mentor before, like just kind of very briefly when Martin's like waking up in the morning and he has like his chores that his mentor gives him. But then when he mentioned like, oh, going to the Boros and like my master, like he knows a lot of things, that was kind of like, good. Like, so I think that was kind of part of Martin. And Martin, he DMs as well, right? Or like...
I think he plays in his other campaign.
Oh, does he?
I think...
It'd be great if he were here, but now he has to... What is he doing? Tutoring. Oh,
tutoring.
Just kidding. We love you, Martin. But anyways, like Martin... So I could definitely feel like maybe Martin was kind of thinking like, oh, this might be a good way to kind of drive it forward. And then I took the cue and did that, basically. But then after you guys figured that out and talked to him, you got pointed to Nasius and you met in this very creepy abandoned Orzhov church.
Yeah.
So the Orzhov church in question is part of the Rubble Belt, and the Rubble Belt is this kind of broken down part of the city where the Gruul clans have kind of tried to reclaim the city for nature's sake, right? So this old ruined church, basically what I did was I took this map here. So this is a map of an Orzhov church that is in Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. It's like just a regular basilica, essentially. But so what I did is kind of took that map and modified it slightly, basically took a big chunk out of it and made, an abandoned church.
By drawing a bunch of stakes around on the page.
I basically drew some stakes. Yeah. They were delicious. Yes. I hope. Good. So that was just debris.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Big giant.
I don't know why the debris was food. Yeah, but
just like the Gruul like slew some giant beasts, and then the meat went bad, so they just threw it over. I don't know.
It's thematically, yeah,
absolutely. So, you guys met at this church, which was kind of a sketchy place to meet a member of the Chamber of the Guild Pack. Oh, that's something I noticed when I'm like rewatching. I keep calling it the Office of the Guild Pack. It's called the Chamber of the Guild Pack.
Whoopsie.
It doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
I guess it matters a little because it's like the Chamber of like, I don't know, like House of Lords, House of Commons, Chamber of whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so you guys went there, and Nasius was accompanied by this kind of weird, roguish looking gentleman. What's going through your mind, Justin? Or
Or Milo.
Milosh, either or both.
Either or.
They're kind of the same.
Yeah, it's
Not so
not
dissimilar.
so far off. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically just that this is a pretty sketchy meetup place. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't too worried about them. Nasty ass seemed like a fine guy.
Because you're trusting.
And I assume chewing cud guy was a good guy until proven otherwise too. So I was
Until he started shooting at you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then I was
Then you were
ready
like,
to whip out the moonbeam.
and whip it out you did.
I did.
Making a beautiful spotlight over him that burned him.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you are like Milosh a lot, except the pacifist part. You are like very chaotic. Whenever something bad happens, you're like, yeah, you're very like that.
Not lawful. No.
You should be Gruel.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I was almost there.
Yeah.
I almost went for
Next
it.
time. But anyways, after meeting Nassius and coming clean that you guys haven't been able to catch Faelish, basically you tried, she got away. Basically the mercenary guy, he got the okay from his boss, who was kind of like in the shadows, to kind of take care of you guys. And then he summoned forth some Orzhov spirits. So Orzhov, they have a lot of indentured spirits. When you die, that's not the end. If you still have a debt to pay, then you're going to pay it in unlife, which sucks horribly.
Right.
Like being a slave sucks, but being a slave even after you're dead, so shitty. Yeah.
Thanks.
At least you don't feel pain.
Yeah.
I think actually we
I
don't
have
really
no
know
idea.
the lore on ghosts,
Yeah.
but
They feel this kind of pain in the heart.
that was another thing that came up in the next episode was do ghosts have rights?
Oh, do ghosts have rights? Yeah, we did talk about that in the last episode, which is kind of funny. They definitely have some sort of... There's some legality around it, because the Azorius Senate, the guild that is in charge of all things legal and even judicial and legislative, they definitely would have a law about it. They have a law about everything.
They have a ton of spirits
Yeah.
too.
They
So
do.
They would have thought about it.
They even have...
Yeah.
I don't know if they have them anymore, but definitely during the Decamillennial, they had indentured spirits as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, there's lots of Ravnica lore that we can get into, which would be really cool. I've been trying to read up on some of it just because I found, this campaign in this world so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But, there's a lot of things that could be fleshed out a little bit that really would only kind of be addressed if you were playing in a D&D style game where you kind of have to do it, because Ravnica as a whole is kind of an amorphous sort of vagary of a city where we actually have a kind of a map in this of the districts, but for the most part, it's I think it's mostly just like an impressionist kind of city feels.
Yeah, there's
it's
lots
so
of...
large too.
Exactly. And there's lots of images and stuff because it's based on Magic the Gathering, the setting in Magic, one that is very, very popular and one that is currently being released right now, right? So
War of the Spark.
Yeah, the War of the Spark is the newest one. It's coming out very soon at the end of this month, which is very exciting, very cool if you're a fan. Are you going to pick it up? I know you play Magic sometimes.
Nah.
Nah.
I'm going to borrow it from Brendan too.
Oh, yeah, he has the book.
Yeah. He's already got it.
Very cool.
We have a roommate. We're going to steal his book.
We're actually going to have a little read along. I think we should do that.
Oh, that'd be cute.
Oh my God. Anyway, so yeah, the world is quite large and there's a lot of possibility. And even though there's a lot of detail, there's also a lot of vagueness for you to be able to craft, a campaign of your choosing around, which is kind of cool. So after you guys fought these spirits, then, the kind of the mastermind behind Nassius being manipulated in this way, she was hiding in the shadows and she realized like they were kind of struggling in the fight a bit. So she decided to step in. She is a...
Dame Spoopy Dench.
Yeah, Dame Spoopy Dench. Exactly. She is a pontiff.
Yeah.
And pontiffs basically, I use this, oh my God, I'm
Priest?
having a break fire. Yeah, the priest stat block from the monster manual.
Ooh.
Yeah, and just modified a few spells to make it more like Orzhov
Oh, cute.
feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, they actually, the Orzhov Guild in Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica has, all the guilds actually have like an expanded spell list. So that's a good place to kind of start if you're looking for expanded spells. I don't know if that's what you did, Patrick.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. So
Look at that.
look at that. So yeah, very handy. And they actually recommend that you, that's a place for you to start if you want to modify other NPCs in the monster manual. If you want to kind of modify their spells or anything like that, then you can do so easily with this book.
Do you want to talk about these NPCs? Because there were several NPCs that were introduced through the last fight. Before we even get to Karen's brother coming and showing up too, that was a whole extra scene right after that, wasn't it? Or it was just
it was near the end of that fight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
They were right after the end of it.
Yeah,
Basically, they were starting to get arrows flying at them.
Yeah. They're trying to kill our prisoners.
How dare they?
How dare they? Very well dare they.
How very well dare they? But it's because, and so, yeah, I'll talk about like kind of what my idea was for that. So I had already set up this encounter for the possibility of you guys being like failing and then getting attacked by the Orzhov, because in my mind, like Orzhov is like, well, if you can't do this properly, like what good are you, sort of thing, right? And kind of doing it in a discreet way out of, you know, the more populated area of the city, and you know, it will not get traced back to Orzhov itself. But if you had brought Faelish there, that might not have happened, right? You got like, maybe they would have kept using you for, you know, XYZ.
Yeah.
Do you think you would, as players, would have kept working for the Orzhov if you knew who you were working for and why you were working for them?
I don't think so. I think we're pretty belligerent about like not working for anyone is what it seems to be coming to.
Mm-hmm. But Nastius might not, or probably wouldn't have come clean and told you that, but who knows, you might have brought it there and somehow it might have come out. You never know. It never always happens how you think, especially for me and you guys.
I know Julian was really tempted when money came up, and I was like, get gold from tons of shit. We don't need to work for the Orzhov for that.
Yeah.
But
there you go. Good on you.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious though, were the Orzhov the masterminds of this sort of plot the whole time in your mind, or was that something that developed over the course of playing and figuring out what pieces might fit where?
So I think both techniques are equally valid depending on your personal style, but also depending on, you know, how much you know your players and how it might act. In my case, for this particular thing, I actually had the Orzhov planned out to be kind of the masterminds behind everything since the beginning. And that means Krenko's way, that first adventure that we did, like Nastius wanted you guys to bring Krenko to him because he was going to bring Krenko to the Orzhov first before dropping him off to the Azorius.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I had that planned from the beginning. I didn't know how soon or how late or anything that they would uncover, if at all. But yeah, I'm kind of glad that you did, because it's more fun. It's kind of fun to have like those revelations, you know?
Yeah.
So you're kind of being tugged at from two sides. One side is Demir and one side is Orzhov.
Yeah.
Both of them pretty shady guilds, but always at odds with each other. I mean, like most guilds are at odds with pretty much everyone.
Every other one.
Yeah. But certain guilds are more likely to cooperate with one another than others, and neither of those are very keen on each other. So, you know, they wanted to know more about Mr. Taz, which is what you guys discovered in the next episode, right? When you were kind of interrogating your prisoners.
Yes.
And that was the whole reason they were doing that, because Mr. Taz stole something from them, from the Orzhov.
Which we never really found out what it was.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
What a shame. What a shame. I wonder if you ever will. But before we get there, so Ben, you wanted to know about the NPCs.
Yeah, so we had Mr. Rogue guy who's kind of there as like the mercenary, who's kind of the muscle, kind of to protect Nastius, and he put a face to him. You gave him this affectation where he was kind of like chewing his
his cud, but yeah.
Well, he was a human, right? But kind of that whole like kind of a cowboy, spitting in, chewing kind of vibe, and he kind of had this like, swaggering attitude. Was that something that you kind of like had notes for or improv? Like, where did this character come out of? Because he was really, provoking and interesting.
Well, yeah, and Karen really found him annoying. So for some NPCs, I do kind of come up with an idea beforehand, like, oh, this is kind of how I want them to act and how I want them to kind of display. This guy, I knew I wanted him to be kind of like roguish and kind of almost over it and just like, this is just another job sort of thing. But the affectation that you mentioned of like the chewing the cud and just kind of like his attitude, no, that was totally improv. Like, yeah, I was just like, okay, how does this guy act? I guess he's like this. Like, for some NPCs, like especially ones that you kind of just see very briefly, I don't do that just because sometimes coming up with stuff and for someone that you're just going to interact with once very simply, like, you forget and it just is a simple interaction. But if you can, you want to try and make those sort of like little things happen as often as possible because those are the things that kind of stick out in the characters' minds and helps them remember who they are and kind of just makes it more fun. What did you think of this NPC?
I liked him a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a lot of character. He's very distinct.
He was distinct.
Yeah.
But Karen, Martin's character, again, did not care for him.
No, he did not.
Which I found also very funny.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we were introduced to Dame Spoopy Dench, who was unnamed in that episode, but was dubbed that. I think it was you who came up with the name. Yeah. In the next episode when you were interrogating her. And I wanted her to be like just kind of snooty, rich, like bitch, right? Who... Like her, it was not pretty simple character.
Yeah.
And racist.
Yeah,
it turned out in the end. Which like I kind of get where that would come from like the Orzhov being kind of an elitist sort of organization. And they are mostly humans. They're one of the guilds on Ravnica that is...
especially the higher ups.
Yeah. Like all the ghosts on the ghost council that runs them are all human. And they're kind of like this old... It's almost like aristocratic, but more like capitalist religious aristocratic.
Yeah, it's like if you took, the cardinals from Catholicism, mix them with old nobility in Europe, and then mix them again with CEOs and like their kind of financial dynasties, like the Hiltons, what have you. That's the only one I can think of off the top of my head right now. But that sort of thing, right? Then they're combined in one single guild, and it actually works so perfectly. And I think that's one of the things I like so much about Orzhov is how it's kind of like a commentary on like capitalism, really. Yeah. Like they worship the dollar. Like how perfect is that? So you guys managed to fend them off. But as I said, during the fight near the end, you were kind of getting some arrows out of nowhere from within the top of like some of the rubble. And that's when we discovered that you were set upon by some anarchs, by some Gruul anarchs.
Gruul.
Yeah, so the anarchs, I had their stat block ready because I wasn't sure if you guys were going to be fighting them either.
Could very easily. They're pretty aggro.
They are very aggro.
Smash.
Yeah. So we have like
Boro smash. Ooh, Borberger Marsh.
Yeah, that's the kind of de facto guild master for the Gruul because they don't really have a guild master because they're all about anarchy and freedom and whatever. The different clans also sometimes fight with each other, but he's seen as the most powerful of all of them, so he's kind of the de facto leader for the Gruul clans. But anyways,
yeah, the thing about anarchists is might is right.
Exactly. So he's the strongest, so I guess we're going to follow him. But yeah, you were set upon by these scouts, essentially, these anarchs. And they were there because you're on their territory. The rubble belt is theirs, right? And so when they discover some city dwellers, right, that are kind of in their territory, well, that's a fight.
Yeah.
So... they hear the fight happening and they go there. And it just so happened that, coincidentally, Karen's brother was among them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know that Karen had a brother in Gruel?
Did not.
You did not?
Haven't really like gotten to know my teammates very well, I guess.
Wow. So, do you think you're a bad friend?
Only to the two new people.
Right.
I'm a great friend.
You're great. You're an enabler for,
Yeah.
for the friends that you know and care
Yeah.
about and cherish.
Exactly.
All right. Well, hopefully you'll get there with them eventually.
Yeah, it takes time.
You know, how do you feel about Karen's anger issues?
Like he could chill out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not ideal. Like
Well-
you don't have to punch everything. You
Well,
shouldn't.
yeah. And I think that's fair. I think that's good advice to follow in real life.
Yeah.
You know, violence is not always the best answer. But in this particular case, when you guys came across Karen's brother, Bane was the one who was more keen to start a fight.
Ugh.
And Karen was actually the more, you know, subdued, calm one, which was kind of like a funny
Yeah.
sort of thing. And that's what I was hoping for. I kind of wanted to kind of bring Bane there. And once I kind of remembered that, like, oh, right, this Orzhov church, this wasn't something I'd planned the first time. Like, I was like, oh, Orzhov church abandoned in the Rubble Belt, you know? And then I was like, wait, the Rubble Belt, that's where the Gruul are. And then I remembered that Martin had
A
one of his
Gruul
contacts.
brother.
Yeah, that was his brother.
Ooh.
So I was like, oh, that'll be fun. Like,
Yeah.
just kind of to throw a monkey wrench into things.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just like to challenge him for the idea of the role play of the NPC with the brother, but it also kind of worked to challenge Martin's play of the character too, to not just punch someone in the face. This time, the person that wants to punch him in each other in the face is his family. So
Who does not care for him.
they don't get along.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, he abandoned the Gruul to join the Boros instead. But you know, being in the Boros, he's able to have a little bit more restraint and restriction because they're like, you know, the military. They have rules and they're more strict, whereas the Gruul are much more anarchistic. So, you know, having him, usually the hothead, have to show the restraint that it takes to kind of manage that situation. It was a great twist for his character, like you said.
Yeah, I really like how it turned out.
When I see it that way, I think that Boros is a really nice stepping stone for Karen on his way to finding true peace in the Celestian Guild.
I knew that was the direction you were going, but it's like, oh God, what are we gonna do? Okay. Well, you know, they are, so Selesnya is a white-green guild,
Yeah.
and Boros is a white-red.
White-red.
So they still have that white, which is, you know, community,
Yeah.
goodness, order,
Yeah.
those sort of happy things.
They're not so bad.
But they're also red, which is chaos and
Yeah.
destruction and, you know,
Yeah.
passion.
Them and the Gruul, they almost got it right.
The Gruul are green red, so
Yeah.
they're the passion. So yeah, I could see it. He switched from green red to green white. He's a little more ordered.
Yeah, he's
Now he
gonna
just
get
has to get that green
the
back.
green
instead.
back.
Yeah, I could see it.
Exactly. Then we'll get his brother on board.
Yeah, because Rakdos, they're red-green, so, you know, they love nature and they love all that stuff. But
Gruul.
Gruul.
But-
Yeah. Rakdos red.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Gruul,
Yeah.
not Rakdos.
Rakdos are terrible.
Ooh, we haven't gotten to them yet.
Awful.
They're fun, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have potentially played a Rakdos. I love their outfits.
That would have been such a dramatic twist from where your Milos character. ended
Yeah,
up.
it'd be the
It would have been-
opposite.
basically the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Really putting your role-play skills to the test.
They're like maniacal circus people. It's great.
Yeah, or just, like, crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fun times. So yeah, you guys saw Karen's brother, which was very fun. It's always nice to try and bring those characters, especially the contacts that really kind of have that emotional response. I always really like bringing family into things because I think it's always kind of like dramatic. We all have family issues, like
Yes.
you know, family fucks you up, but they're great.
Yeah.
and you love them, and
Yeah.
that creates tension.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
it was fun. After that, you guys managed to capture. You were set free. Basically, Bane let you go.
Yep.
Which was nice of him. And you guys went back to someplace you thought would be kind of safe and away from prying eyes, which was funny enough
sewers.
the sewers. Well, not exactly the sewers, the Undercity.
Yeah.
Where Zavon's apartment is, which I think apartment is a strong
I
word.
think it is too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you guys managed to get there and actually get some some information out of them, although it took a while.
And a lot of broken fingers.
A lot of broken fingers. That's something that I find can always be very interesting, is how me as a DM and how your players handle interrogation.
Yeah.
That's something that's tricky, and it takes like a few tries, I find.
I should just be more assertive about casting friends so people stop being so violent about it.
Oh my god, that would be funny if you just constantly cast friends.
Whoa, wait.
They get so pissed at you though.
Yeah.
And like, stop manipulating me.
Yeah.
Continual rage cycle of like the spell wearing off, them becoming hostile towards you, casting it again so that they calm down, and then are just like,
You forgot.
And it's every minute.
Yeah.
that's like when I hit my snooze alarm in the morning. It's just like,
Absolutely.
no,
Yeah.
just calm down. Just calm down.
But now, what if your snooze alarm was sentient? Like, would you feel a little bit more guilty about that? I don't know. But yeah, so you guys started interrogating, and yeah, a lot of finger breaking. Again, Cairn started going back to his old ways of, you know, well, this isn't going nowhere. I choose violence. He went all Cersei Lannister and chose violence, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
And at first it seemed like it kind of worked, at least for the mercenary guy.
Yeah.
But then when he tried on Dame Spoopy Dench, you know, he did it twice, and she was already at low health, you know, basically like kind of thinking HP wise, gameplay wise. I was like, well, after the second one, she's just gonna pass out again.
Yeah.
Like after her pain. And then like you guys were like, oh, like it's like, well, don't keep beating up someone that's already at the verge of death.
Yeah, torturing old ladies is not a good D&D
No.
make necessarily.
Exactly. It's also fun fact, torture is terrible in interrogation in real life. It doesn't work.
Really?
Yeah, it's the worst form of interrogation.
Interesting.
Because the person just tells you what you want to hear to make you stop.
Yeah.
So that's how they got a lot of false confessions.
Haha.
And thankfully, it's legal here in Canada to
Torture.
torture.
Good.
I hope. Well, I know it
It
is
should
illegal,
be.
but I hope that, you know, that's the case.
Yeah.
So you guys, you know, you were kind of at a standstill. You did kind of talk with Nassius and with the rest of the party and decided to let Nassius go. I think that was a lot your character, right?
Yeah.
That's something you really wanted. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your view on Nassius? Like, you thought he was kind of a victim of circumstance, or?
He was a victim of his gambling addiction.
That's beautiful. And did you think like, oh, and then he'll reach rock bottom and then he's going to look for something
Yes.
like Matt Celestia?
Yes, I did. Let's let everyone suffer just enough so that they'll...
I have definitely met people who were like, and this is terrible, but I have met people who are like, oh, well, maybe if they prayed to this particular god, then, you know, that wouldn't have happened. I've had someone tell me that once, and I almost, like, it was like, that's what a horrible thing to say.
Sure, I'll try that.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks their god has the answers.
It's like you just picked the wrong one.
Yeah.
Clearly.
I'm actually was more and more excited to watch Justin play Milos and see the evolution / de-evolution of his character from being, you know, really righteous and pious to like seeing that reverse side of the Silesian Guild where, you know, yeah, they want everyone to kind of like join them in their light, but at the same time are like, yeah, but if you don't, like, maybe that's a terrible mistake.
Yeah.
You know?
What's really interesting about this point in the timeline is the Silesian Conclave are actually amassing an army. They have this huge army, and that's making a lot of guilds nervous. They're also the guild with the highest number of members.
Oh, fantastic.
Right? So, because, you know, what's not to like about the guild? It's beautiful, it's peaceful, there's lots of nature, there's community, there's a sense of purpose. Like, there are a lot of really good things that I totally understand why a lot of people would want to join that.
Like religion.
Exactly. And like a religion, like...
It's a cult.
Yeah.
Basically. But unlike a cult, instead of, you know, a charismatic male leader, they actually have a triad of female leaders that speak for the world soul, which I think is kind of cool. Tristani.
Yeah.
Which we haven't got to meet yet, which we probably won't for a while. She's pretty secluded.
That's fair.
In her in the world tree in Vitugazi. Yeah, which is super cool though.
I appreciate though, just like the way that Justin role played the character, especially was like kind of like what you were saying, where I'll let you suffer enough so that you will love Mount Silesing. It's like your religious zeal is actually becoming more and more twisted. Where like right now you're neutral good, I can see on your character sheet, but I'm not sure if evil good is exactly in the spectrum. But,
and that's one thing with this particular setting is the traditional alignment chart for D&D doesn't work exactly because none of them are thinking I'm bad. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even the traditionally like more good aligned guilds, they're not really that good in a lot of ways too. And actually one way that you were kind of confronted with that is when you met with Karen's mentor. Do you remember that he said something about, he was like, Selesnya has done some horrible, like has committed like horrible atrocities before.
Yeah.
Like something like that.
Yeah.
And you were very like, oh, how dare you? Like,
you must be confused.
Yeah, you're confused.
Yeah.
You're thinking of Golgari. Like,
yeah. I can see you'd get them mixed up, maybe. I guess if you're old.
If you're old and you're squinting.
Confused.
Yeah.
Yes.
We both have elves. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, but I agree with you, Ben, that it's really interesting to see role play wise how that kind of comes into play, right? Yeah. So after you guys were interrogating and let Nazis go, you were going to you did manage to get out of Dame Spoopy Dench that why they were getting you guys to go after Faelish. It was all for Mr. Taz, right? And then she divulges to you that it was because he stole something of value. And basically that you guys were being manipulated through Nassius because they're manipulating him because they control his debt, right? So these casinos he's been going to, they're owned by Orzhov. And, if you owe them a debt, then you got to pay for it in either money or in a more fun way with service. Blood is another one. They do have vampires. So, yeah.
Literally blood.
I was wondering, too, actually, how the debt and Nazius's gambling problem kind of came up. Because
that was totally improv.
I was gonna say, like the debt, him having a debt to the Orzhov, like, great, well prepared. That he has a gambling addiction.
That was totally at the spur of the moment. I was like, okay, well, how did he accrue this debt? And at first, I thought like maybe something serious. I was like, I'll make it funny. And I was like, gambling. I was like, not that gambling addiction isn't a serious thing, but it's also kind of like amusing that this person that you see as a very like stoic and, and Vidalkin are usually very like emotionless and very kind of order based. But them deciding to kind of like throw it all away because they love gambling. Like it's kind of thought that was funny.
Yeah, that the fact that he has this character flaw that kind of goes against plays against type, I guess.
Yes.
So that it's his dark secret,
which I think is important because I actually read a really interesting article not too long ago. I think Julian actually tweeted about it, and then I read it by clicking on the link, and it was about like.
Is that how links work?
Just for you kids, like I'm sure you don't understand like links, but after like reading this article, it was about racism in D&D, and it talked about how like these races can do this and that, like how it's kind of problematic in some ways. And I was like, oh wow, that's really interesting to think about. And so I was like, it's like, okay, well, let's come up with like a funny thing for this guy that's kind of like out of left field that, yeah, you wouldn't have thought a Vidalkin would have something like that. But he's a creature. He has a mind. He has, everyone's different. Like not every Vidalkin is going to be the same. That's boring.
Yeah.
Right?
It really is the running into the ultimate problem with something like D&D where you tie mechanics to race and class and like other things like that where and then at the same time it's so fantasy driven and based on like these archetypal stereotypes really. So to say that like Vidalkins are like this, it's the basis where you got to start for your story.
Yeah.
But like you you can make it more, and there's other ways, like reading into articles like this to kind of think about how you're positioning yourself in the game, which is like, that's a whole other kind of topic of discussion.
Yeah, I would love to have like, have an episode where we have like people of color, like, Steve, is a great D&D creator, talking about like his experiences with this sort of thing too. I would be really interested in that.
We have had a brief touches on some of these things in some of our other efforts at having kind of like a talk show style this and that. So I haven't posted them on YouTube yet, but there might be something there. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said on the stream the other day, like, we're also just a bunch of white guys talking about what's racist.
Exactly.
Having the Dame Spoopy Dench character, sort of choose to use these racial slurs to, like calling a Minotaur a heifer, like it's funny because they're not real, and
heifer is like, they're a cow like it is comedic, but it's also like, it makes you think like, like that would not be okay if it were like a real thing, right? And I kind of like that.
In a way, it lets you play around in a safer space, so long as everyone at the table is enjoying that kind of thought process.
Absolutely. Because if I had someone of color who was playing with us and they said like, oh, that kind of thing makes me uncomfortable, all right, we're not going to do it again. Like first and foremost, you want everyone to have fun. Like that's what we've been talking about, right? Is how to create a campaign that works, but also that everyone wants to keep coming back. Like, Justin, do you want to come back every week? Or
yeah, I guess.
Yeah, you're like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's
all right.
Wow,
really offended me.
I really set that up for you to be like enthused, and you're like, yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, thanks. Really glad we brought you on the show, not Martin. So it was kind of interesting to think about those things, but those are things that you should think about as a DM. Like bringing like these fantastical races into things. Don't just put them in a cookie cutter. That is a place to start, like Ben said, but, branch off, come up with really interesting things about them.
So talking about being silly too, like calling a character like Dame Spoopy Dench, like there is a certain amount of, I guess, fun to have at the table versus like realism. I thought that was a good moment where, it was like, it's more fun to totally, like, in the world, Spoopy is not funny.
Exactly.
But
it's a very serious
players,
family name.
We got to enjoy that moment.
No, exactly. Like and I do that a lot, especially with NPC names, like, because some of the time I will have the name ready beforehand, but for some reason I don't do it a lot.
Yeah.
So I kind of leave it open, and then when someone's like, call her this, I'm like, all right. If you like that name, sure.
Someone's like, oh, it's a genie. I guess it's Will Smith.
And that's his name now. That's his name is Will Smith. So after kind of getting some of this information from something I wanted to talk about. What did you think of Jace's idea for Liam to kind of take this disguise and pretend to be Faelish to try and kind of trick them?
I thought that was fun. I thought that was, it's always nice, those abilities you don't think to use that often. So when you can find a way to use abilities like that, I'm like...
Yeah, it's definitely a fun thing to do. And it's something that like you kind of need a balance of. So in some cases, this kind of really cool, fun role playing using your skills and your magic to do something really kind of out of the box, really fun. And as a DM, like I do like to try and facilitate that and let you guys do that. But there are also cases where like stuff like that happens and it's like, would it really be feasible for like, what would these characters really think? Because like, think about it, right? You guys had like on this huge mission to go find Faelish. You don't come back for a few days. Okay, maybe ostensibly you could have her with you. But it was just kind of like fishy.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And because Dame Spoopy Dench had like, she rolled very high on her insight check to go against Jace's, or Liam's rather, deception check.
Yeah.
You know, she figured out, that's not her. Like, this is clearly disguise. And
she's smart.
She's smart. And also disguise self is a low level spell.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if it had been a higher level spell, where
Polymorph, actual
exactly,
polymorph.
or there are other spells too that aren't even as high as polymorph, but still very specifically, like, it makes you look like a specific other person. You know what I mean? Whereas disguise self, it just makes you look different enough that you're kind of passable as something different.
It's kind of like the D&D magic version of putting on the glasses with the nose that like and the mustache. That no, it's like it's better than that, but it's still not like a full on appearance of something or other.
Exactly.
But
and that's exactly why I always try and think about that, because I don't want you guys to be OP, even OP in role playing and interrogation and stuff. Because it becomes more fun when you do get that level and that spell that does allow you to really like transform into another person. Yeah. Because then you're like, I got this, and it feels so much more cool, right?
Yeah. How do you? I guess that's a good point about DMing, is like balancing, letting the players be creative with how much do I want to let this work? Because I could see in the moment you were a little reticent to sort of say,
I was
sure, yeah, this would totally be something that would work, and I could see you struggle trying to find like a good reason that you could kind of put. Let him try it.
Yeah, I wanted him to try it because I thought it was still like an interesting idea, but I told him right off the bat, like, there's a chance this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely struggled with that. Honestly, it varies so much from instance to instance because every instance is different, right? And you kind of just have to use your best judgment at the time to kind of come up. You look at the rules to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, again, just do what you feel makes most sense, what is fair, and what is most fun. And even though he failed, like, it was still kind of like a funny sort of thing that he tried out.
Yeah, Jace, I think in particular was trying so hard to like use his like roguish abilities. He was like very much in love with the idea of playing this rogue character and getting to be the Demir and the subterfuge and to use his arcane trickster features as much as he could. It's just really trying to grasp at that. So like you want to give him something.
Exactly.
And he was able to kind of get some of the NPCs a little confused, and there were some good moments that came out of it, for sure.
And that's just it. It's like, so, I kind of hope like, oh, well, I hope he's not so disappointed in it that, it completely failed. At least like he managed to convince Nassius and the mercenary guy.
Yeah.
But Dame Swoopy Dance, she's a wily one.
Sly dog.
Sharp.
Yeah. But like, had he had Felish's ID on him, like he was going into the bar, maybe you would have gotten it.
Yeah, maybe like it's like, oh, this is really this was taken when I was really young. Oh my god, it's so embarrassing. Like, and then we've all been there. But anyways, after that interrogation, you guys were still kind of confused as what to do. Okay, why they kind of manipulated you. Where do we go from here? And you guys were kind of discussing it, and you were at an impasse. And this is where I had the idea from even the episode before that. I kind of had this at the back of my mind as a possibility of happening. But I thought, well, they're stuck. I'm going to do this.
Yay.
And that's when I had Mr. Taz come forth and reveal himself to you. What did you think when that happened?
I thought you really wanted us to lose our memories. Just keep presenting that option. Yeah, no, I was terrified.
Well, there were kind of three options brought to you. So if you haven't seen the episode, which like, why haven't you? Oh my God, watch it. It's great. But when you guys were kind of arguing, everything goes dark and suddenly this mysterious figure appears and identifies himself to be Mr. Taz. And you can tell pretty much right away that he's very powerful just from the magics he's able to wield with such ease.
Yeah.
And let me see if I can bring him up here, actually. He does have his own stat block here in the book. Mr. Taz. Yeah, that's him. So his true name, or the name that he's most known by within the guild, again, very little is known about him from outside the guild, is Lazav, and he is a shapeshifter. Very kind of interesting, whereas this kind of dark brown, and it's actually all leather. The cloak, the robes, everything, the cowl of like this, hideous beast.
Leather daddy.
Oh, leather daddy.
What's up, daddy?
Oh my god, incorrigible, all of you. But essentially, the reasoning that I had Mr. Taz / Lazav actually come to the forefront is because y'all had been disrupting a lot, right? So think about it. You guys have a member of Demir, which within a lot of guilds, I think the guildmaster probably doesn't even know your name or even knows you exist.
Yeah.
But I feel like Demir, because Lazav is all about control, all about like manipulation and knowing things from like kind of a top down sort of perspective.
Yeah.
I kind of figured that he would know at least a little bit about you. And then when he realizes, okay, one of my vampires is dead.
Yeah.
One of my shapeshifters are dead. And one of our safe houses have been compromised. And it's all because of this one dude who is a low-ranking member of our guild.
He fucked up. Yeah.
So that was kind of my reasoning that like Lazav would be like, okay, I'm going to take matters into my own hands now. Which is extreme. It like having like, look at this guy, he challenge rating of 17, right?
Ow.
So there's absolutely no way that like you guys would have been able to beat him.
No.
Pretty much none.
Thanks for punching him, Martin.
So this is kind of this part in an RPG where you fight a boss and then you're supposed to die, like sort of thing.
Yeah.
This was very much one of those.
Yeah.
But it didn't have to go that way. There were 3 possibilities of how it could have gone. You guys, and the possibility I think that you found the most pleasant was the one that happened, right? That your memories were wiped.
Yeah.
But at least you still got to be with Liam.
I think everything's perfect now.
Yeah, because he's not associated with Demir anymore.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was wonderful.
See, that's another way that how Ben was talking about like kind of shady, like that's shady that you would allow your friends' memories to be wiped and your own memories because it just makes everything more peaceful and happy.
I just know that he is better off for it.
I think that's great, like roleplay wise. I mean, as in real life, I think that's disgusting. But,
right.
But for the narrative, great. I love it.
Spot on.
Yeah, I can't wait for this dark path.
Evil
Excellent.
Milosh. And so that was just one possibility. The other possibilities were you guys could have fought him and just straight up died. He could have just killed you if you'd pissed him off enough. Thankfully, he chose because he kind of, and he said this to you before you started fighting that, if getting you guys to die would just create more questions, creates more, more possibility of people kind of finding out about Demir's true motives and how they truly function. Yeah. So he figured, it's probably best to do this. But if you'd pissed him off enough, he could have just killed you all, and that would be a TPK, which, sometimes it happens. And actually, I would have been fine if it had. I thought it would have been a good, conclusion to this. It's like, don't fuck with Demir and then we would have made new characters. But I'm also happy that didn't happen because I do love your characters.
Yes.
And then the last one is what Zavon tried to do. She tried to convince Lazav to actually let you guys work for him. Yeah. Kind of basically inducting you into House Demir. Yeah. Which I think Milosh would have been very against.
I would not have gone for it, no.
Yeah. But I thought it was an interesting possibility because that, and she rolled for it. She tried to persuade him, did not succeed. Yeah. But yeah, if she had rolled high enough, who knows? He might have been open to the possibility.
I think you forgot about the other option where we fought Lazav and won and ruined the Demir.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Liam becomes the new guildmaster.
Yeah.
maybe a little too low level for that just yet. I mean, frankly, I thought it was a bold choice to deploy the guild leader in an actual encounter with they were at level 3, I think, at that point, party. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, it being that boss fight where you're probably going to lose, but at the same time, they had already killed all these other NPCs that we all kind of thought were really high level. So I was almost concerned
that they would actually succeed. Yeah. And I totally get that. And in the future, or if you guys are, making your own campaigns or you're even using this, you don't go to that extreme right off the bat. I was comfortable enough that with this decision that I knew that it was going to go in an interesting direction no matter what. But you're right. It was bold of me to go with that option. But part of the reason I chose this is because of on the Wizards of the Coast website, on the Magic the Gathering website, they write little stories, right? And there's one that they wrote a few months back that was about House Demir and just a very low ranking ancient who was working for them and all this stuff. And, but basically at the end of that story, Lazav himself shows up and actually does that. And it, not at all how it turned out with you guys, but basically he shows up and he manipulates everyone into thinking he's their grandma and he's been there the whole time and all of this stuff, like really freaky, but really cool.
Cute.
So to me, when I saw that, I was like, okay, Lazav is interested even in the little guy, like anything that can possibly be like to advance their own agenda or that might hinder them. And he feels that he needs to take control. I was like, okay, that's given me enough license to kind of go with this. But yeah, he easily knocked all 4 of you out within 2 turns.
Yeah.
3 of you in 1 turn. And then it was just Liam left. But what I liked is that he did the 3 of you first. And that allowed Liam to take an action to actually pull out
a memory.
the memory of this entire encounter, which I think was brilliant. Like that was so cool.
That's using your abilities to their max, taking your character's special, little thing that makes them unique and really using it to drive the narrative too.
Absolutely. And it worked, which was the fun thing. And that could have been one of those moments where you could have just said, if you liked it enough and you wanted it to work, just say it works. That again, as a DM, that's your prerogative. You can do that. I still like for people to roll because it's also fun if it didn't work and he would just like grab the memory and like crushes it in front of you. That would have been fun too. So kind of having that element of risk and chance is always fun. That's why the dice exists in the first place. But if you feel like taking the reins and pulling it in one direction yourself, have at her. But yeah, it was a very cool thing that he did.
Did you see it coming? Was that one of the things you thought would happen?
No.
What were you thinking as the DM at that moment when you had to decide how? I guess at that point, was Lazav going to kill the party? Was he going to just knock them out and take their memories, which I think was like a good fun option to not TPK the party and let them live, but also just like that in that moment it opened this door for you. So what were you thinking as the DM?
So I definitely was blindsided by it, and I liked it a lot. It was a really good way of, because in my head, I was already planning like Lazav's just going to knock you all out and take your memories away. He doesn't want to deal with all of you being dead and all the questions that would arise from that. So he's just going to knock you out, take your memories, and then wipe his hands clean. Right. But having already planned that, and I think Liam kind of anticipated that was what he was going to do, like taking that memory and just like stowing it in a secret place that he wouldn't know about, and knowing that if his memory is wiped, he'll come across this and he'll remember at least bits of it. I thought was so cool. So I decided, okay, fuck, let's just go with it.
That's sweet.
But again, the past 2 sessions, I haven't planned much for it anyway. So I was already improving at the edge of my seat the entire time. So
yeah, there's a good rogue for you, right?
That's a good rogue.
Finally got to have his moment.
Exactly. So I was proud of him, and I was happy that, he did manage to get that moment. And then you guys wake up, your memories have been altered in strange ways. You talk to Nasius and get all of that stuff from him. And he decides that like, it's time for him to retire, probably for the best if all of these shady happenings, do eventually get back to him, he'll be in serious trouble. So he's deciding to go on a little vacay. But that's when when Liam discovered this memory fragment and showed it to all of you. Milos, you were really hesitant to like accept it as true, which is very in character.
I don't want him to think it's true.
Oh, you don't want him to start having these dark
Those thoughts
or-
again, yeah. Everything was perfect. Why would this come and fuck it up?
Right.
You know? And then, oh, look, maybe he thinks he's Demir again.
You were. I did. I after rewatching it, I like the part where you were chanting "break it, break it, break the vial, break the vial." I know I was doing it with you to like
Crush the fake
You're like, fine,
memories.
I'll just try again later.
I literally shouted from the background for like Justin, just go for it.
Just
do it.
Go
Just
for
do
it.
it.
Just try. Just
They never
try
let me do what
yourself.
I want.
Yeah, and I think it would have been good if you had, but I also understand that like you're not for confrontation,
No.
so it was like, well, I'll get my chance, like, but not now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting, but that's what really made it fun is that Lazov might think that this has been totally taken care of, that he doesn't need to worry about this anymore. Little did he know that Boros knows where the safe house is, and that Liam actually had this memory fragment, and now you guys, at least in part, know that Demir has been involved in some way. So that's going to cause some serious problems
Trouble.
on Ravnica.
Yep.
Because, if the Boros are now, wise to it, and it's not going to take long for Azorius to hear wind of it too, especially since the chamber of the guild pact itself was compromised. And also it's the same with Orzhov, Karen is a little tattletale, and which is totally fine. That's what he should be doing as a Boros. And so now Orzhov is also in trouble for infiltrating and manipulating the chamber of the guild pact.
Yep.
So things are gonna spice up.
Drama.
Yeah.
Drama.
But you guys were kind of all agreed that, pursuing Nasius and going to this basically Vegas style resort.
Yes. Vacation time.
And, rediscovering the truth
Yeah.
about the whole situation was the best option, and also bringing him to justice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Excited for that.
it was a fun way of like, kind of bringing everything to a close. And it's kind of like, oh, what's next for these characters? Oh, okay, we're definitely going to, continue on with this, like eventually probably. But I also kind of left it at a cliffhanger, when Liam went back into his home and saw that the little girl, which is a form that his old mentor, Shapeshifter, always used to take, was there. Yeah.
Actually,
Who is it?
yeah, I really like that moment too. That it was the same little girl. Like, I like the idea from like a world building perspective that the doppelgangers in Demir all share forms. That they like maybe that like this little girl archetype is just like something
A common
thing that like there's maybe hundreds of doppelgangers in the Demir guild, but they might have like a couple of common forms that people might become familiar with, but you never know which one of them is which. His mentor that was taking this form could have been somebody different every time, and he wouldn't have known.
Absolutely. It could never have been the same person, right?
No.
Which again, very fun about the Demir.
Yeah.
I'm really glad one of you chose it, because it does create a lot of really mind fucky like sort of moments.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are a few other things that I want to mention. Like, I don't know, like for like when you guys went up in your renown, and in some cases your rank within your guild.
Right.
That was something that I'm totally kind of new to. It's not something I'm used to, but it's something that's in Guild Masters. And yeah, you get special benefits from that stuff that I will let you know.
That's
like, this is what you can get from this.
Yeah.
And then you also got loot. So that's kind of a fun thing for as a DM to be like, oh, what's the loot? And I actually forgot to mark what the loot was that I got for you. So I kind of had to like look through the book. I was like, it was this.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. But I try and pick something that's thematic for that particular guild, and also would make sense for your character.
In a character, yeah.
Yeah.
That
What
makes
did you
sense.
get?
I got the not pendant, the periapt of health. A
Yeah, prep.
sort of necklace. I got prep.
You
I'm
got
immune to disease.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh my God, you're going to be barebacking everywhere.
Yeah. Yep.
And then, and then you also got that 4-speed. Each one of you got a 4-speed from Nasius as thank you as well.
Right. 4-speed.
And you asked if you could put it in your butt, of course.
Like a string of anal beads.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's just classic you.
Classic.
Yeah, so that's something that you definitely have to consider for your party. Like, you know, in some adventures, it's very much like this is what you find, this is what you find. But like, you know, feel free to modify things even in pre-made adventures if you want it to kind of make more sense for your characters. Like if there's a great sword and none of your characters can use it, then what's the point?
Yeah.
Right. So in this case, it's a lot easier because it's a lot less like dungeon diving to find treasure. It's more, you know, what is your guild going to reward you with?
Right.
But, you know, there's also a possibility, like maybe if you'd looked through the Orzhov church, maybe you would have found a cool Orzhov like magical item.
Maybe.
Right? Who knows? But you couldn't stay around because
Nope.
you were being harassed.
My freaking gruel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you have any questions for me, Justin? Any concerns, thoughts, opinions, insults?
Oh. Well, I was going to ask if Ben called you out for wearing a t-shirt with too much pattern on it.
Pattern. I actually did think about that after.
So
What do you
there's
think,
the
Ben?
insult.
No, it seems like it's not causing that issue. Maybe very slightly in the tiniest little bits in the leaves, but no, it's all good.
I would have changed if we had noticed that before we started going live, I think.
I noticed.
It was fine. It was fine. Yeah, just so people are aware, when you wear very fine patterns on video in particular, it causes that like rainbowy effect where it looks like it's like moving and stuff, just because like the pixels can't quite figure it out. So
Like, what is?
Yeah. So it's just a good tip to not wear fine patterns.
Or
on-
maybe I
on
like
camera.
being rainbowy.
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
that works too. It could
Oh.
I mean, I think I did notice when I was uploading the video that you wore the same shirt as the last episode. You had the same sweater,
That's funny.
That's because we filmed it all on the same day.
right? Yeah.
You guys all
everybody
changed. I
else
didn't.
changed,
Yeah. I actually only own 3 shirts.
Oh.
And yeah, you've seen them all by now.
Yep. I would like to stop wearing green t-shirts because I'm out of them. And this whole trying to dress thematically thing has just not been. I would have picked a guild with blue in it.
You
got
do
that
have more of
covered.
that.
Yeah.
You like good on you for doing your best because you were definitely the best one for that, I think.
dressing for color for guild.
Yeah.
There was some effort
Jace was good
put
too.
into it.
Yeah.
Jace had to wear the same t-shirt more than once because you also ran out of colors that
Yeah.
matched.
Yeah.
But you could have wore white, but that's another thing you don't wear on camera because it reflects too much light.
Oh.
And,
I could be
yeah,
Orzhov
mix you
right
up.
now, the black and the white.
Actually, yeah, it's a great Orzhov shirt.
Thank you.
I just won't wear white because I will spill everything on it. Nothing stays white forever.
Unless it's, but you have a lot of dark shirts and you probably gotten a lot of jizz on it. So,
Yeah.
you know, what's,
Things can become white. They just don't stay white.
We go straight to jizz.
Yeah.
well, just like, have
to
you met
jizz.
Justin? Like,
First thing.
comment below
Jizz.
how much jizz you think Justin has on his clothes. The answer will shock you.
Yep. How many people say cum guzzler in the comments?
The last thing before we get going, last thing to talk about is one thing I notice, because all of you are like pretty experienced, I think, right? With playing D&D. So the metagaming thing, it happened with the vampire, like just like not last episode, not the one before that, but the one before that. Where you guys were like, oh, if we fight a vampire, it's just going to kill us because their stat block is so high.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, no, stop that. First of all, A, you're wrong. B, and B, don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
I understand it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Because even when I'm a player, because I DM so much, when I'm being a player, it's really hard for me to stop. And I can tell from Julian when I'm doing it, he's like, oh, like, and it in particular, like when I rolled the dice, like just to make you guys nervous. I do that sometimes. That's a fun thing to do. If you want to make your player sweat just for fun, just roll a die behind your screen and they will all start freaking out.
What's that die roll for?
Exactly. And you're just like, what die roll? I don't understand.
We heard something in the distance.
Yeah, exactly. And then you were all just like, are the prisoners still there? Blah, blah. It's like, yeah, I don't know why you're all freaking out. So it's something that, like, as a DM, you have to watch out for and try and stamp it out, especially when it's disruptive to play. A little bit is unavoidable. It will happen. You will do it. They will do it. You know, because at the end of the day, you are a bunch of nerds sitting around a table with dice. Like, but you want to try and take that out of it as much as possible and stay within the narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah, metagaming for the narrative can kind of work if you do it. Like, I mean, Julian was talking about, you know, picking up on your DM cues and thinking, how should I react as a player? Being an experienced DM, you know, how can I help move the narrative along by metagaming a little bit? You know,
Exactly, and that's totally fine. You know, like I mentioned before with the role playing thing, is you want to act like your character, but also realize that this is a game and you want to try and create ease of play, right? So it's finding that balance. So some metagaming is unavoidable, and you're right, Ben, in some cases beneficial. But for the most part, you want to try and, you know, stick to...
Keep them engaged and not thinking outside of you know, what's happening at the table too much. I think in the cases of something like the vampire and sort of thinking, well, oh, their stat block is really high. I mean, there is balance there where you can also justify that, you know, as characters in the world. How much do I know about vampires? And I know that they're nasty and that they're strong. So, you know, there's always give and take with that, like, player knowledge versus character knowledge. But so, like you said,
but I would have rather they had said, like, what do I know about vampires, and then I would have had them roll for it, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. There are ways to justify it. But, you know, consult with a DM. I am God. You are God if you are DM.
Yeah. Also with monsters, I mean, when you're metagaming and thinking like, this monster's probably too strong, like, DMs can adjust the level.
Absolutely.
Like, I guess it's best to always trust the DM to have not thrown something at you that's
Lazov.
challenge rating 17 when you're level 3.
For the most part, probably not.
Yeah.
Like, for the vampire, that particular case, I knew that it was going to be challenging. And it was really hard, but I knew it was doable.
Yeah.
it turned out to be a really great dramatic moment because, like, you know, sitting back thinking, you're right, like, they're gonna get fucked by this vampire, and that'll be really fun and interesting in the narrative too, to see, you know, maybe a character will die or you know, whatever happens, but, like, you challenge your players, and more often than not they will rise to the occasion if it's within reason, you know, like.
Exactly. So I was really proud of you guys. You guys are so good. But yeah, it's been a real treat DMing for all of you guys. Like, you've been so wonderful and really fun to play with and DM for. Because that's the thing, is, like, you know, DMing, it's work. It's a lot of work, and getting people who A, appreciate it, and B, like, can do it well, always makes it worth it. And I do think that Ravnica is a really fun setting to play this with. Like, if you want, like, a totally different thing than the regular, like, sword and sorcery cookie cutter fantasy based thing, it's so different and so cool. Have you been enjoying Ravnica? Are you a fan of the Ravnica?
There are like 7 other Magic the Gathering planes I would rather play in, at least.
Lol. Tell me about them. Which ones?
Innistrad, Dark and Creepy.
Yes.
Macabre.
I'll have to get my Curse of Strahd game back.
Lorwyn / Shadowmoor would be my go-to. It's like really adorable fantasy, like Kithkin. Little, like, creepy, freaky, like humanoid, basically halflings, but different weird proportions and sharp teeth.
Adorable.
Would love to go there. Would love to go to Zendikar. It's big ol', like, go on expeditions, like treasure hunting and stuff.
And it's a very dangerous world.
Or
it's basically the land itself is trying to kill you sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
When they came out with the plane shift kind of crossover, where they gave you like ideas for stat blocks on in like some background on these settings, if you were to pull them into D&D, I thought that was really cool. Plane shift, whatever the Magic the Gathering setting, go look them up. But they, the core is a race in that world. And I thought they were really cool when I saw them for the first time. So I was all inspired to make a character with that.
Yeah.
Obviously never got to play it.
That's the thing too, is like I'm the same way. I come up with so many stories and characters and stuff all the time, and I'm just like, when the heck am I going to play this? And unfortunately, sometimes you have to pick and choose. But but it's always fun when we do actually get the opportunity to get together and play this very, very fun game as a family.
Yeah. Well, it brings me to my next question then. What's next, Patrick? What's next for our heroes, or what's next for Ravnica?
So in the future, hopefully in the very near future, I'm thinking of bringing new players in with totally different characters. And they're going to be playing a totally different side adventure that might be happening parallel to this one even. I think that's real cool. I think that's cool too. Ravnica, again, is such a huge world and such a big city that you could easily do that and it won't be an issue. I will miss all of you, but I'm definitely going to bring you guys back. We want to know, who is that little girl, is like that new doppelganger. Will Liam rejoin the Dimir given, or why is she there? What does she want? I thought he was out, but he's gonna get pulled back in. And I'm curious, for Jace as a player, obviously he wanted to play Dimir, didn't exactly go right for him, but is this something that he's going to choose to embrace again? Because I think as a player he was a little conflicted, and that's also part of why a lot of their extended debate had to happen, was like he wasn't sure what to
do.
Jace
the player wasn't really sure what to do either, to dive in full Dimir and still get that Dimir shit going on, or what he should do there. It
was very much, and I think that definitely might happen again, because it did definitely create some tension within the party, which was fun, within the character, which was also very interesting. But also in the player as well. It's like, I like torturing you guys sometimes. It's fun. And then we want to know if you guys manage to find Nasius. Are the guilds going to, straight up go to war with one another because of all of this shenanigans?
Sweet.
What's going to happen there? And more to come. But you will definitely be seeing everyone again, I'm sure.
Ain't seen the last of me yet.
Ain't seen the last of Milosh. And then besides that, we're hoping to do a bunch of other cool stuff here on Can We Play Already? We have one of our players, Julian. He is actually going to be playing a campaign of his own making here on our show. That's going to be awesome. I'm very excited to watch him DM. It's always fun to see other people DM, because I always pull tips, and different ways of doing things from DMs all the time. You're always bettering yourself.
Yep.
And I'm really excited to see what he does.
Yeah, we're actually going to have a bit of a talk show style thing too, to introduce the campaign and the world. And in particular, he's interested in running this game in what we're kind of calling a hard mode. So he's got all these mechanics that we're going to explore. And so stay tuned, coming in May.
Ooh, I'm staying too. And then, of course, there's one other thing. Ben, did you want to talk about this other thing?
Oh, yeah. So I got this cool thing. It's the Stranger Things D&D Dungeons and Dragons starter set.
Thank you, Vera White.
So we're going to... We're going to do a little unboxing video. So if you're watching on YouTube, click the link that I'll probably put in the description if you want to see that video. And meanwhile, we're going to say goodbye for our Ravnica stream.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much for watching us and following us and our brave adventurers. Thank you to Justin and Ben for joining me today. This has been very fun. And yeah, if you guys want to follow us here on Twitch, please do so. If you subscribe, you'll get notifications the next time that we start going live. And you can follow us on Twitter at Can We Play Tweets. And any videos that you may have missed, you can follow on YouTube, where we have our own YouTube channel. And then you can like and subscribe our videos. That helps us a lot. We very much appreciate it.
Yeah, like genuinely, it actually does something. So that'd be nice.
It's like a big deal. Yeah. So if you do that, we'll love you so much. Justin will show you his boobs.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably.
I almost did already.
Oh my God. Yeah, with that tank top last time. Again, my name was Patrick. I have been Dungeon Master here, and I'm hoping to come back. You'll see me sometimes on this side. Maybe I'll be a player sometimes. We'll be changing it up. It'll be fun. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BloodPhoenix89 because I'm an emo kid on the inside. And I'll hope to see you soon. Justin, would you like to say goodbye?
Yes, my name is Justin, and I would like to say goodbye. Follow me on Instagram at Jazzkin321. Also, follow me on OnlyFans at...
Oh my God.
I was like, you didn't start that, did you?
No,
that's like, just a running gag in these DM videos.
Yeah, it's like, sweetie, I didn't know money was so tight. Like, oh, like I wouldn't have done anything about it. Like,
No, but some consolation.
Maybe I would have subscribed to your OnlyFans.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
As a friend. Support friends.
Yeah.
Support your friends' OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would like maybe jerk off to it once. Like,
all right.
Just as a friend.
That's very kind.
And then, of course, Ben, our wonderful tech and producer, who was kind enough to be on camera today.
Nerd.
Thank you. Thanks for watching, everyone. We put a lot of effort into making these shows happen, and it's pretty much become a large part of our life. So your support means a lot, and thank you for watching this. Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And we'll hope to see you soon. Bye.